Morning Drive.
Oh my gosh, this is incredible.
I'm cool. Hey, you kids, let's get down. Get funky.
How do you do, fellow kids?
Love listening to you on my way into work. And
All right, we get the point. We're more worried about breakfast right now, okay?
the fans are delirious.
Sirius XM NASCAR Radio, Channel 90.
Get it all over yourself, boys and girls. Here you go.
Now, the Morning Drive.
You're as cold as ice. You're willing to sacrifice our love.
Welcome in to a Tuesday edition of the Morning Drive on your home for NASCAR, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Hey, everybody, Pete Pistone here in the Paisan Palace in Chicago. Jordan Bianchi of The Athletic is in today for the Bagman. Jordan at PRN Worldwide Headquarters in Concord, North Carolina. Sammy and Davey in the Beltway Bureau in our nation's capital. 866-748-5263 puts you in touch with us. It is a TMDJ Tuesday. My playlist bringing us to green. It is cold as ice because, yes, it is as cold as ice here in Chicago in January. Jordan, how are you? Good morning, pal.
Good morning, Pete. And I do not miss living in the Midwest. I am a born and bred Minnesotan, and man, these winter days are times I just do not miss Minnesota. It's a lovely part of the country from like June until about October. Everything else, no thank you.
We have not had that bad of a winter, so I can't complain. I think Minneapolis has been on the. I think a couple of snowstorms have hit up there, but they, I think they dodged one over the weekend. So anyway, we're finally going to get some cold and snow this week, and it's almost the end of January, so it's to be expected. But haven't really had it, so I'm not really like. I don't know if I'm ever ready for it, but I'm not really ready for it. Like we took the dog out for a walk yesterday, and he went outside, tried to spin around, and came back in. That's how it's cold around here. So anyway. Yeah. Appreciate you jumping in today. Mike texted him yesterday, still trying to get to the bottom of what's ailing him, and hopefully he'll be up and running here before too long. So we wish the Bagman a speedy recovery, but nice to have you in today there at PRN. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me in. I ran into Mike this past weekend at the NASCAR Hall of Fame festivities a little bit, and man, I just felt bad for him. I know he's under the weather, so well wishes to him. And I kept my distance. I said, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's plaguing you, but just cough that way.
Yeah, well, I don't blame you. I mean, early on here, we're only in January, and poor Baggy's been under the weather. So I guess best to get it out of the way and be up and running when everybody heads to Daytona here in a couple of weeks. So, big weekend with the Hall of Fame and all. I know you were there. We touched on it a little bit when Kelly was here. Since you brought it up, what were some of your takeaways of what you saw Friday night and heard from?
It was good. The best speech, I think, by far was Herschel McGriff. It was really neat to see. I really like to hear the old stories. I'm a historian of the sport, and hearing 95-year-old Herschel McGriff just kind of, you don't realize what a career he's had. I mean, he raced against Red Byron, which is just blows your mind to think of the guy who raced in the inaugural Southern 500 in 1950. You're like, what in the heck? That was a great piece. Kurt Chelmerdine, who I believe is one of the more underrated crew chiefs in NASCAR history, finally gets in. I think crew chiefs are kind of underrepresented in the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Long overdue. It was good to hear his stories, and you can tell what it meant to him. And then Matt Kenseth. Matt's great. Matt, to me, I just said underrated, and he's an underrated driver. You look at the totality of his career and everything he's accomplished: 2 Daytona 500s, the Coca-Cola 600, Southern 500. I mean, he's one of those careers that you're going to look back on years from now and go, wow, that was really, really good. And the unfortunate thing for him is he raced again in an era against arguably the greatest driver of all time in Jimmy Johnson. And then also another great in Jeff Gordon, where he's kind of overshadowed a little bit by that, but just a really great career. Great to see him go in. And it is always a wonderful time to see kind of everybody mix. One of my favorite moments was when kind of in the break between the kind of the pre-show stuff, if you will, the fireside chat with Kyle Petty, and then before the actual ceremony begins on the Peacock Network, was everybody just kind of bantering about, kind of mixing, mingling, if you will. And you're seeing, Jeff Gordon talk to Leonard Wood, and it's all of these different, exchanges. And you're like, wow, that's pretty cool to see that.
Yeah, it's such a melting pot. I apologize for not giving the person credit who came up with this line, but you talk about Herschel McGriff, and the line was Herschel McGriff didn't grow up around auto racing and NASCAR grew up around Herschel McGriff. And that's a great line. It's absolutely true when you say it's mind-blowing that he raced against the 1949 champion Red Byron, and he's there on stage on Friday. You're right about that.
Yeah, that's 100%. You're right. I mean, this is a guy who literally from day one in NASCAR history was a part of it. We need to appreciate that, and it's great to see that. And maybe you can look at his career and say, the numbers, all about the numbers, right? Is that the numbers justified? It's like, okay, in some cases, you got to go beyond the numbers, and his contributions to the sport and the totality of it is pretty impressive in the scope of it. So kudos to him for getting in. And I do like the Hall of Fame. I like the fact that, I don't know how long ago, like 5, 6, 7 years ago, they moved it from, May to January. I like giving its own weekend and kind of a little soft kickoff to the year, if you will.
I completely agree with you. I mean, when it first opened and we used to do shows from there, it was part of the Coca-Cola 600 weekend after the All-Star race and all that. And I felt like it got gobbled up. I agree with you. Now I like it. And especially when you're looking at this time of the year, we don't have the formal media tour like we used to, but the Hall of Fame and production days last week sort of segue into that. I agree. It gives the sport a nice spotlight and sort of jumping ahead to the Clash here in a couple of weeks. Obviously you're not yet on the road and the grind hasn't started. So, and you jump in with us here on the channel, which we appreciate. I mean, I have to ask you here, like, what are the things that you do when you don't have 24/7 racing, Jordan? What are some of the things that have occupied you in this off season?
My parents visited for a while. That was good to see them. So that occupied some time. Went down and actually saw them over Thanksgiving. Took some time off. Like, really, this is the only time of the year, really, after Phoenix until the beginning of the new year, is the only time of the season I have to take any time off. I do not, from January 1st to Phoenix in November, I do not take a day off. Like, I am always present. I'm always doing things. I'm never off the clock. And so it's really an opportunity to just kind of recharge. I love college football, so being able to just sit and relax and digest college football for a few weeks is incredible. I really am pretty bored when it comes to the offseason. And honestly, I've learned too, there's always stuff going on. Like we had planning meetings on the athletic side. We had some story things that came up. And so you never really truly get out of it, but just to do nothing is everything, and just to recharge, because as you guys know, we all live this day to day, 11 months out of the year, it feels like it is nonstop.
It really is. I have to say, this off season for me, I feel like it's gone pretty fast. Mostly because, to your point, well, here's the thing. We went through some stretches, I mean, to be honest, where there was a kind of a drought of news and, we were kicking things around here. But all of a sudden, it's like late 2 weeks ago, the floodgates opened up, and so that makes the time really fly by. And I keep seeing, these promos over and over again when I'm watching football, to your point, on Fox about the Clash being right around the corner. And here's another thing, and I don't know if you do this or not, but I am someone that does appreciate other forms of racing. I know you do, but the streaming concept, I actually watched some races last week, some short track races, and I got one this weekend as well. So if you need that racing itch scratch, it's not the vast wasteland like it used to be, when the NASCAR season shut down before Daytona rolled around.
No, it is nice. There are other things to kind of, invest your time in. A lot of great short track races, throughout the country, really, and especially here in the Carolinas, and I know out west, and then you've got the Chili Bowl. There's just always stuff going on, and honestly, I'm really excited for the Rolex 24 this weekend at Daytona, which to me is going to be, I think, a very memorable race with a lot of great storylines, and I'm excited for that. I love sports car racing. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea for various reasons, but I love it. I love the direction that series is headed in, and all of the excitement and energy and the new manufacturers that are coming in. I think you're going to see just a fantastic race unfold. And I think with this new car that they're bringing in, it's going to really present an opportunity for sports car racing to kind of elevate itself to an even higher level. Kind of back to the days of, you know this very well, Pete, of when sports car racing really, truly mattered in this country.
Yeah, I mean, back in my days with Group 44 and the Jaguar days and the IMSA Camel GT series, yeah, I agree. I'll tell you one thing that I was really disappointed, and I get it, they weren't able to have things connected. But originally, the Chicago Street Circuit race here, they're going to have an IMSA race of some kind on Saturday. It didn't come together. It's going to be an Xfinity Series race, which is fine, too. I thought it would have been cool to sort of replicate what they do with that series at Long Beach and do it here in Chicago in July. That would have been pretty cool.
It would have been neat. I think the GT cars were going to be part of the Chicago street course race initially. That was how it was announced, and then things kind of changed. And I think part of my understanding is NASCAR is going into Chicago. Why are you not having your top two series on the stage? And that makes sense. It really does. If you're going to have a race in the third largest media market in the country, this is a great opportunity to put a shine on the Xfinity series, and they should race there. But you could figure out a way maybe next year to bring in GT cars. And I think that's the one thing about the Chicago street course race is it's going to be interesting to see how this lays out, not just this year, but next year and the year after in terms of a schedule. Because if you go to other street course races, there tends to be race cars on the track just kind of almost continuously of all sorts of different series. This is not quite to that level. I don't know if that's what NASCAR's intent is long term, but it's going to be interesting to see if they kind of fill that schedule out a little bit and try to make it more robust.
Yeah. Now, the other thing you could do in the offseason, and I wound up doing this a little bit last night, FS1 showing some classic NASCAR races. So
I saw your tweet.
In between jumping around basketball, like I've been doing pretty much every night of the week here at this time of the year, I saw they had the 2007 Bristol Spring Race. And again, I couldn't help but notice pretty full grandstands, blue skies. I think Larry Mack was on that telecast. I think he said it was around 80 that particular day. Ooh. And not a speck of dirt to be found, which, makes me happy. But the other part of it was, the only downside was, there was the old COT on Bristol Motor Speedway in that particular race. And it looked really, we all lived it, but when you look back through the prism of, 16 years, it's like, yikes, that was not a good-looking race car. But it was cool to see the Bristol Spring Race with such a full grandstand that particular spring afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the heyday of Bristol in a lot of respects, it felt like. And it just, nonstop sellouts and excitement, enthusiasm. And that version of that Bristol track is probably my favorite version, where you had a little bit of, you could race side by side, but you also had, close contact racing where you had to put the fender to somebody. And man, those were the days. And I respectfully disagree with you about the Bristol dirt to some level, but I understand a lot of people's animosity towards it. My colleague Jeff Gluck is well documented in his disdain for it as well. But I get it. I mean, it is arguably one of the best short tracks, if not the best short track in the country. And I want to see that restored. I do think the Bristol Night Race has that prestige, if you will, and that excitement level. So I get it, and I understand it, and I wish you could go back to those days and return that a little bit of where the grandstands were packed and everybody was excited, and you still get, and I'm not trying to defend Bristol here by any means. They still do a pretty good job of drawing a really good crowd, but the problem is that place is enormous, and so when you have that number of people spread out a little bit, it kind of gives you a different perception or reality than what reality is. But still, those were the days, and Bristol it's come a long way. A lot of changes since then, maybe not all for the good.
Well, again, on the dirt side, it's one of those, I totally understand why they did it. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I just hate giving up. I'm like Jeff, I just hate giving up a short track, especially that short track with a concrete surface. But I understand it. Well, this is year 3 of the dirt race coming up. Easter weekend is also sort of not my favorite weekend to be racing in NASCAR, but that's a personal opinion. We'll see after 3 years if they decide, just like Indianapolis, right? Will they go back to the oval in 2024? It seems like maybe the road course has a little bit run its course, no pun intended. I don't know.
Yeah.
The beauty is with those two examples, you can go back and forth. I mean, they've proven you can take a facility, Jordan, and make it a little different and see if it works. And you're not married to something forever. And if you want to switch it back, you switch it back.
The one thing I really appreciate about modern day NASCAR and the decision makers that are pulling the strings is their willingness to be flexible, to be open-minded, and to say, hey, we're going to try this and see if it works. And sometimes they've hit home runs. Coliseum is a great one. I think North Wilkesboro is going to be another one. I think the street course has got the potential to be a home run as well. And then there's sometimes they say, you know what? That idea just didn't work, and in a willingness to say, you know what, that didn't work. We're gonna make another change. Yep. You didn't always see that from the old regime, and this regime is much more open-minded, much more willing to do different things. You look at, we're gonna try double headers. That didn't kind of work out how we wanted to. We're gonna go away from that. We're gonna try midweek racing, and that didn't go how we wanted it to. Now, I think that's an experiment that maybe should come back, but I understand why they didn't. My point is, though, they're open-minded, they're flexible, their willingness to adapt, and I think it is credit to them. And I say that because, to your point, I don't think the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is going to have a road course race next year. From the conversations I've had and the things how signs are pointing towards, I think they're going to be on the oval. And I'm not saying, I don't know where the Bristol Dirt experiment's at right now. I think they want to get through this year and then make a decision. But you could also see a way of saying, hey, you know what? This isn't working. We're going to go back. But they have that option. This is not a regime who is going to dig their feet in the dirt and say, this is how it is, whether you like it or not. They are very adaptable, and that is a good characteristic to have in modern day NASCAR.
I completely agree with that. All right, one last point here before we get to the show. So we're having some friends over for dinner on Saturday night, and Michelle says, I want to try this new cocktail I saw. I said, really, what is it? She goes, it's called cocaine. Have you guys heard about this?
Yeah. I'm too afraid to answer this
Not the
question.
cocktail cocaine. I've heard about the other.
Yes, I figured.
The other kind.
So apparently, America's Dad, Tom Hanks, was on
Okay, I have seen this.
Stephen Colbert show last week, and there were some about, they were having people at the house, and Hanks has this deal now where he takes Diet Coke and he mixes it with champagne, and he calls it cocaine, and supposedly it is the sensation that is sweeping the nation.
I might have to give it a try.
What do you
You
think?
did there, Tommy.
What do you think?
Sure. That's interesting. It reminds me of a story. It was after bar close, and we had a post party at my place, and some ladies came over and some friends came over, and this woman who I'd never met before comes up to me and she goes, "Hey, do you have any Coke?" And I'm like, "Excuse me?" I go, "I have Diet Coke."
Attaboy. I didn't mean the same thing. Caffeine free? Here, sure. I'll set you up.
I'm like, I don't know what you were expecting at this post party, but this is not it.
Cherry, vanilla, what you got?
What you got? So I might
There's
have
a couple
to...
new Cokes in the back, too, if you really search back there.
You want to get wild and crazy?
I got a 2-liter here, too.
I got a Coke Zero for you. She quickly left.
Yeah.
Thank God.
So I have so I don't know where I got it from. I got one of those little mini bottles of Brut. Someone must have given it to us for a holiday, and a Diet Coke. I'm going to try it. I'll do a test run.
You might as well.
Not on the air, but later. I don't know.
Hey, why
No,
not?
why not do it on the air?
Yeah.
No, I don't want to do that. Because I got a lot of work ahead of me today. Plus, I have a dentist appointment this afternoon until they cancel on me, and I got to go see that.
I had to cancel on my dentist. There's today.
Why?
We have a thing that we're doing after the show today and stuff, and so I wasn't able to get. There's things I have to do, so I wasn't able to do it. But I was able to cancel it early enough. But they were like, not happy that I canceled this dentist appointment. I was like, excuse me, I'm rescheduling. I'm canceling the dentist appointment that you guys canceled on me 2 weeks ago. So get over it, jerks.
Mine, I take it back. Today is actually Amy for the piece getting trimmed up. Tomorrow's the dentist, but my dentist canceled on me last week. Remember? It was during the show.
Yeah,
I think I told you guys. I got a text.
What's going on with these dentists?
I'm like, I had a 2:00 appointment. She goes, can you come at 11? I go, no, I can't come at 11. I had something I was doing. I was recording. She goes, then we're going to have to reschedule. What are you, shutting the joint down after noon? What's going on over there?
My dentist office was like, can you come before 1 o'clock? Because the dentist likes to get out before 1. I was like, don't we all? Don't we all, ma'am? I mean, jeez. Good Lord. I got to work.
All right. Well, open your mouth and say because we got a great show for you today.
I'm just going to quit and become a dentist, I think, Pete.
I like that. All right, we're going to talk to Jason Burdett. He's the crew chief of the number 9 Chevrolet Junior Motorsports. Of course, new driver there, Brandon Jones. So we'll talk to Jason about that. Brad Perez will be here in the, what hour is that? Eastern and Central Time. That would be the 9 o'clock hour. And Brad's got some new things happening this year. We'll talk to him about that. Roger Caruth will be here. He is racing in the truck series for GMS. So we'll check in with him. And, of course, we'll take your phone calls at 866-PIT-LANE, 866-748-5263. Also on Twitter, @SiriusXM NASCAR, #TMD NASCAR.